What's up, guys? Today we're going to look at the Galaxy S series here in 2024 and just sort of see Samsung's progression here, starting back from the S10 Plus and then going all the way to the S24 series. What have they been doing with hardware, software, and we're going to talk about pretty much everything, kind of do a general rundown here of these flagships. So as far as the hardware goes, you can see it's quite a bit of a difference here. So the Galaxy S10 Plus being the smallest phone here, even though it's a plus size phone. So I think around that time data came out and people just were, I guess, on their phones more, or they just preferred bigger phones. So you can see it went from a 6.4-inch display to a 6.9-inch display, and the phones just got massive. What's funny is that the S20 series is the biggest here with the 6.9, and Samsung actually never went back to that. It's been around the 6.8 inches, I believe. But let's talk about hardware here. So the cameras, as you can see, obviously have gotten really big. I think my favorite design still is the S21 Ultra. Just looks really cool. I do like the cutout on it as well too. It just has a really nice look to it, and also it's the last phone where Samsung has what I consider a comfortable design. As you guys can see, it's very comfortable to hold, but as you can see, Samsung has moved to essentially what is a Galaxy Note design, because let's just keep it real, the S22 Ultra is really just an up. These are just Galaxy Note phones pretty much. But yeah, so it's not as boxy and it's extremely comfortable. So that's what I always missed about the S series. If you would notice, these phones aren't boxy, but when it switches to the Note design, then it becomes, boxy. But yeah, so I really like this design. They're all, of course, glass and metal designs. Samsung has recently made a change with the overall hardware as well. With the S24, it has the titanium design to it, which it made it a little bit lighter, which I actually really liked. But this is a phone that I immediately put a case on it, just because what I was seeing with the iPhone with that titanium stuff, and it would get scratched really easily. So I don't know if this one how the titanium holds up, but I wasn't trying to take any type of risk with that. But yeah, there's also another essential difference here, and that is Samsung has removed the headphone jack and the SD card support. So they removed the headphone jack with the S20 series, and then the S20 series, it still has the SD card support, and then they completely remove headphone jack and SD card support on the S21 series. And this was, I believe, strategic, right? It's a playbook from, Apple and just a lot of manufacturers realizing that, one, they can charge people for cloud storage, right? If you can kind of get people over to Samsung Cloud, then they'll pay for that, And then also you can charge people for a higher configuration. So they'll sell you a 128 gigabyte model or a 256 gigabyte. And if you're somebody who takes a lot of videos, downloads a lot of content, you're probably going to buy the 512 gigabyte to 1 terabyte if you're an extreme user on your phone, right? And it's just another way for them to make money. Is it good for the consumer? Not really. And there's no real excuse why they can't put SD card support. How do we know that? Because Sony still does it in their flagships, I believe, with the Xperia lineup, which I am planning on going to check that out, because I don't think we've ever had a Sony phone on this channel. But yeah, as you can see, those are the biggest hardware differences with these phones. Now, one of the things that I applaud Samsung on is having always some of the best displays in smartphones, if not the best displays. Their display technology and just how they tune the displays, super vibrant, just really good panels here. Even if you go back as far as the S10, it's still, AMOLED, Super AMOLED, and also it is 1440p, very high PPI, beautiful colors. These are top-notch, very smooth displays, even for the 60 hertz. But you haven't had that much progression with displays. Like, just looking at all of these head-on, they pretty much look identical for the most part, besides the shape of the phones. You can see it move towards a more boxy look. So the good thing about the boxy look is that it does look better as far as like watching content, because it just looks more like a TV. But yeah, so as far as the displays, again, the biggest display upgrade we've gotten throughout the years is really the 120 hertz. And then the S20 Ultra, it couldn't run 120 hertz at 1440p. Then they fixed it with the S21 Ultra. And then really all they've been doing after that is increasing the max brightness. So the displays, as far as we know, it hasn't had a huge upgrade, but it's nothing to really complain about because they all look great. And also, you could technically say this, but the next biggest display upgrade would probably be the Galaxy S24, and it's extremely minor to me, but it was a big deal. But this phone has a completely flat panel, and you can see all of these phones have some type of curve to them, which a lot of people, they really like that because it's easier to put screen protectors on. It's more durable, apparently. But yeah, that's also something that I noticed. All right, so let's talk about the benchmarks and just the overall CPU speed and the progression throughout the years. As you can see, we get a pretty good progression here with the S24 Ultra just going crazy, just made a big leap right there as far as the GPU. And we'll open up PUBG, but all of these phones, they still run extremely well when it comes to animations, just being smooth. Even the oldest phone here, the S10, it still does a fantastic job. And we switch over to the CPU here. We can see that, again, big progression now. Just because, these benchmarks show that there's like a big, and sometimes this score is not right on the S22. Sometimes I have to Geekbench, you have to kind of run it multiple times. And sometimes it'll give a weird score, but this score is actually much higher. But yeah, so in general, these phones are really fast. Now, gaming performance is very good actually on all of these phones. And the oldest phone here, the S10 Plus, is actually still able to play PUBG at HDR Extreme. It's actually able to play it pretty consistently at 60 frames. So again, the Snapdragon 855, this is a really good processor actually. The 855 and the 865, I would say Samsung ran into some problems with the S21 and 22 series. I think these are probably, I wouldn't say they're not terrible processors, but these two phones will heat up a lot if you're doing like very intense gaming sessions, which I'm not a very intense gamer. I don't play for hours and stuff like that. But these two phones I noticed will definitely heat up a little bit more. They seem to have fixed that with the Galaxy S23. And these are all Snapdragon models, by the way. But yeah, I've always thought that was interesting. All of these phones do a great job. You can still play at 90 frames on all of these phones. And the S23 Ultra and the S24 can actually play at 120 frames. So you do have an upgrade in that department as far as being able to play at much higher frame rates on these newer phones. But 90 frames is still pretty good for these older devices here for sure. So yeah, absolutely, gaming experience is awesome. Performance is still great on these phones. It's only been getting better, and the cooling and the overall efficiency of these processors have definitely been getting better. Let's test out these speakers and see if we notice a difference. We'll start with the S10. Pretty good amount of bass, pretty good sound profile. I think I kind of like the sound of the S10 Plus a little bit more than the S20. Again, very similar. Yeah, the S22 Ultra, I think, still has some of the weakest speakers from Samsung. They're very flat sounding in the bass department. Yeah, I just don't know why that is. And then you notice a dramatic difference. So I would say the speakers are pretty much somewhat on par with the S22 being the worst. But then you notice a really big difference in bass and overall sound quality with the S23 Ultra as well. It's a notable improvement. Yeah, so the S24 is pretty much on par too with the S23, pretty much sound identical. So I would say good speakers on these phones, but you really get a big upgrade with the S23 and 24. About Galaxy AI and the software, so if you notice, Samsung software hasn't really changed that much. It's essentially you have a lot of the same stuff in all of these phones, regardless of the Android update version. Yes, they've gotten like more, little features here and there, but essentially it looks the same, works the same for the most part. But the biggest thing here is the Galaxy AI stuff. So the Galaxy AI stuff is something that we're going to be seeing a lot, and it's not just Samsung, it's everything. ChatGPT with all this AI stuff, and just AI had like a really big boom, and now we're seeing it in phones and stuff like that. So you got all these new AI companies just popped out of nowhere, and Apple's doing their AI stuff as well too. And yeah, it's pretty interesting, and I'm really curious to see if you guys care about the AI stuff, because you will be seeing AI a lot. I'm telling you, every new phone launch they're going to be talking about AI at this point. But you can see Samsung launched their Samsung Intelligence. There's been a lot of cool AI stuff with the photo editor, Samsung Internet, being able to summarize stuff with the notes as well too, live interpretations as well, the keyboard. And what I think is really cool about what Samsung did here is Samsung actually brought the AI stuff to the older devices. So the S23 Ultra got it, the S22 Ultra got pretty much most of them, but unfortunately it stopped at the S22 series. The S21, it only got like the circle to search feature and stuff like that, which is still pretty cool. It's something I really like as well. But essentially that's just Google Lens, so we didn't get any of the actual really cool AI stuff. But yeah, so I really like the AI stuff, kinda. I don't really use it, but if you like traveling, or if you, I don't know, it depends on what the situation is. But I like that they brought it down to the older devices, because it brings a lot of new life into these devices as far as making them still feel relevant. Also, what Samsung did, and this is recently with the S24, is that these phones will have longer software as well too, software support. Yeah, so as you guys can see, 7 years of software support for the S24. Google is also doing this as well too, and that's something that I think is really exciting. I want to talk about cameras now and my experience using these phones. The cameras on all of these phones are still pretty good. Now, yes, I think with the old flagships, like the older ones, you will notice kind of like the pictures are a little bit softer. The white balance is off, as you can see here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but white balance is off. The selfies are kind of soft, and the skin tone is kind of off. But this phone does pretty good outdoors. You'd be surprised. You can get a really good shot if there's like a lot of light on this one. But yeah, it's pretty decent. And then when you get to the S20 series, Samsung introduced this zoom photography as well, just throwing 100 times zoom in there, and you just get, they've just improved on it year after year. I would say the biggest improvement, like you saw a really big improvement with the S21 Ultra, and that's when you really notice like the zoom photography getting much better. And then of course they just kind of improved on it from there. But I would say, I always say this, and every year when a new phone comes out, I compare it, do side-by-side camera comparison. People are always surprised at how, the photos don't look that much different. And it's something that I always say, especially if you're in the outdoor lighting, you can get a really good shot. Now, where these new flagships do an excellent job it's really with, again, the zoom photography, and then also video has improved, I think, quite a bit. But it's really with these low light shots. So phones like the S24, S23, they do a really, really good job as far as low light photography and not giving you, that soft of an image, which I think is pretty sweet. It's something that, I really like. But besides that, they've increased the megapixels and stuff like that, which, again, not a really big deal. A lot of people, you'll be surprised, a lot of people don't know, like, and I think that's why Samsung had to redesign this to make it obvious, but a lot of people don't know to hit that button and you get the full megapixels. Rarely, like an average person will just shoot in this, default megapixels. As you can see on the older software versions, there's no thing right here. You would have to manually like go into settings to play with it. Most people they don't take advantage of the full camera system anyway. But yeah, so that's why I never get, too into megapixels. But photos look great. Samsung, I think, has the best overall camera system as far as giving you zoom photography with great stills, and then you also get a really good, camera app itself and good software as well to go with it. And also, again, the video is pretty solid. So they have an overall very solid, very solid camera system here. I want to talk about battery life. This is something that Samsung hasn't improved on as far as the, well, not as far as battery life, but as far as the battery, the wireless charging speeds, and then also just the charging speeds themselves. I think the most we've got is 45 watts. And it's just something that I would like to see, just having like Xiaomi phones and stuff like that, being able to charge at much faster speeds is something that, I just would like to see in these Samsung phones as well too. And also battery life has always been just kind of okay on this phone. I don't care even if you have a new battery, except for the S20 Ultra, the battery life on the S21, S22, and then the S23 and 24 actually have very good battery life. They made a significant jump in terms of screen on time for me personally. But everything besides that, besides the S20 Ultra, has been, I would say, not mediocre, but just very average, just not very impressive to me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Be sure to let me know what you guys think. What should Samsung add in the S25 Ultra, or what should they be focusing on to kind of keep progressing the smartphones?